What's going on, Kryptonians? It's your boy, Kryptonite here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the spooky, the creepy, the ominous, and the rather dark, dank, and deep web. I'm sure you could already have figured that out since you clicked on the video, or maybe YouTube just brought you here because it works in mysterious ways. But I guarantee you, none of the ways that YouTube works that you might find mysterious are as mysterious or ominous as what I'm about to tell you about. Now, the reason I'm making this video, it's pretty simple. I'm actually really excited to be making it, first of all, but the reason I'm making it is because I'm seeing a lot more deep web videos, whether they be creepypastas or videos of people exploring or just talking about how to stay safe on the deep web, popping up around YouTube. And as someone that considers himself kind of a fan of the deep web and the whole idea and most of the websites on there and the use of it for educational purposes, of course, I just thought that this would be a really good video to make on my channel. I mean, on top of that, I'm seeing a lot of kids even at my school, my high school, starting to explore the deep web and get their piece of it, even people I wouldn't consider very tech savvy. So this is an important video for me to make, as well as a video I'm excited to make. So relax, grab some popcorn, grab something to drink, sit back, get comfortable, and watch some of this Xbox 360 Destiny gameplay from the Crota's End raid. If you are interested in seeing more Destiny gameplay, I can play on Xbox 360 or PS4. But this particular raid was last weekend with some of my Xbox 360 friends. Alright, so let's get straight into it. The deep web, right? I think the first thing I want to talk about, and I'm doing this completely unscripted because I wanted it to come from the heart, but I did jot down a couple notes about what I should cover in this video. So the first thing I definitely want to talk about is staying safe on the deep web and how to properly access it. Because if you're watching this video, I don't want you to eventually click off and not learn about the most important part. The deep web can be incredibly dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. For the most part, it's safe if you take the right precautions. 99% of the time, you're going to be fine. With that, even if you aren't taking all the precautions, you should be relatively safe as long as you're using the hidden wiki and going on most of the websites that are popular, common, and well known. But nonetheless, you should always be safe because you don't want to let your mind get the best of you, or you could accidentally click on a link and next thing you know, there's some creepy dude watching you on your webcam, or something as simple as having a Trojan in your computer, which, believe me, you do not want a virus, which, if you didn't know, a Trojan is a virus. If you want to know why you don't want a virus, if you're like, no, it's fine, I have Norton, or I have a free service like malware, I'll be fine. No, trust me, you will not be fine. Look up the MEMS virus on YouTube. I'm giving you complete permission to click off this video and come back to it later. Just look up what the MEMS virus is on YouTube and you will know why you do not want a virus. So let's get straight into what you should do to take precautions and be safe on the deep web. First of all, do not run Windows. I couldn't make that any more clear, especially if you have an expensive PC. I mean, you really shouldn't at all because it's dangerous and stupid, but it would be a death wish to have a computer that costs you, more than a Chromebook, and for you to be running Windows on your computer. And the reason is that hackers target Windows computers. It's really simple that most of the market, it's a percentage that's really high, I believe up in the 80s or 90s, of people who, access the deep web or own a computer in general, run Windows on that, or on said computer. And if you need more clarification after this video, I highly encourage you to check out the channel Some Ordinary Gamers. He's a very smart guy, pretty cool dude if I don't say so myself. His name is Mudahar and he's an absolute beast, so I definitely encourage you to go and check out Some Ordinary Gamers. Alright, so anyways, as I was saying, staying safe on the deep web, not using Windows, incredibly important. And you might be asking, well, if I'm not going to use Windows, what am I going to use? And it's pretty simple, Linux. You might have heard of Linux before. It's a little penguin logo. Linux is essentially an OS, and as simple as I'll make it for you is that there's three really main OSs. which are Mac OS, which runs on Macintosh Apple computers. There's Windows, which runs on most home PCs. And then there's Linux, which you might get on your occasional PC. I'm actually pretty sure there's also Chrome OS. That's not very popular, though. But that's pretty much Google's OS that they run on their Chromebooks. But anyways, Linux is something that you pretty much, you'll never really see it come on a PC, but you can install it. And the thing that's special about Linux is there's so many third-party versions of it that it's not your average OS. And what's good about that is that there's so many that hackers just don't really code for it. And the best part is, so now you can see why hackers don't code for it. There's even a specific Linux browser that goes by the name Tails. So if you look up Tails browser, you'll be able to find this very easily. It's a secure website. Just make sure you're going to the right website, tails.org, I believe. And if you're on Tails, you can download their software. And the even better thing about Tails is that it's an anonymous browser that comes with Tor and a Bitcoin wallet installed. Honestly, you shouldn't need your Bitcoin wallet so long as you're not going to do any of the illegal services that are offered on the deep web, which I highly recommend you don't do because it's illegal, and I really don't want to see you go to jail. So, nonetheless, with Tails, that's what you're going to want to install. And if you go to their website, it's very easy to install. Essentially, what you're going to need is 2 flash drives, at least 4 gigabytes, and there's a very easy setup wizard that you can use. As long as you follow those instructions, you'll be perfectly fine. Now, another thing that you can do if you're too lazy to boot up Tails and then shut down your computer and boot up Windows every time you want to access the deep web or get off the deep web, you can use something called a virtual machine. Now, what a virtual machine is it runs an OS inside of your main OS. If that doesn't make sense to you, think about it this way. You have your Windows desktop, and you open up your virtual machine, which is pretty much an application. You run it as an administrator, as you normally would. And when you open it up, you can still see your OS and your desktop, assuming it's Windows. You can still see all your apps on the side of your computer, and you can still see if you have the regular Windows desktop background, you can still see that. But in the middle of it, you can see, well, we'll use the example I'm telling you to use, Tails. You will see the Tails browser, which is very simple looking, blue background, a few apps, and it's pretty low quality. But that's what you'll see inside of a virtual machine. The perks of the virtual machine, like I said, is you can boot them up very fast. Virtual machines, for the most part, you'll be pretty safe with those. And if you want to go the extra mile, I highly recommend you set up a VPN. And the reason I say this is because VPNs pretty much take you off the grid, is what we'll say. It does many things for you, like it will protect you really from hackers being able to, find out information about you. If you're running a VPN, it will keep most of the information on your hard drive secure, especially stuff that you wouldn't want someone to know if you're an adult and you have like your credit card information on there, your social security, where you work, your home address, stuff like that. A VPN will pretty much keep you 99% of the time safe from hackers accessing that. Now, on top of that, there's a couple other things that you should really do. So after you install Tails, and if you decide to use the virtual machine, the VPN, which I highly recommend you do all of these, you're still going to want to be extra careful on the deep web. If you're new to the deep web, I highly recommend staying on the hidden wiki. And the reason I say that is because the hidden wiki is pretty much a directory of links for you to use. If you use the search engine, you might stumble across something you don't want to, which leads me into the next thing I want to talk about, and the first of the misnomers that I kind of want to put to rest, which is the topic of red rooms. Now, red rooms are incredibly scary things. If you don't know what a red room is, it's pretty much a, it's a live stream, so picture Twitch or YouTube. It's a live streaming service that allows you to watch people be mutilated, tortured, killed live on TV, and of course this costs money. Why anyone would want to pay to see someone get killed is beyond me. But it also is very expensive, so the average man like you and I wouldn't be able to pay for it anyways. And a lot of people say, well, red rooms aren't even real. and I am terribly sorry to report to you that they actually are. Now, most of the red rooms that you would find on Tor are totally fake. And you can tell because if a red room is easy to access, there's a good chance it's not real. Mostly because if it's easy to access, the feds are going to shut it down. The police are going to get to it, they're going to shut it down. And for the most part, this is a close-knit thing. You can actually get links to red rooms in any chat room across the deep web or surface web. If you can find the right guy and you can convince him to give you a link, usually what you're going to do to get into a red room is you're going to install a custom browser that will be able to live stream, because I didn't really say this, but Tor, the onion router, which is what most people use to browse the deep web, can't really do live streams very well. It would be highly low quality, and you'd be able to really, look at your screen and count your pixels with your finger. So people don't really stream red rooms on the deep web. If they did, it wouldn't work very well, and it would be a waste of your money if you were sick enough to pay for that and actually attend the event. Now, what a custom browser is just like Linux allows you to really third parties to make custom OSs pretty much. Firefox allows people to make variations of their browser that can be hidden and anonymous if you have someone who knows what they're doing. So what you're gonna want to do, well, not what you're gonna want to do, let me take that back, but what you probably would do is have to spend hours upon hours finding the guy, getting him to give you a link, and if he's even being legit, you'll get the link, you'll pay a ton of money, and then you'll have to install a custom browser. And the scary thing about the custom browser is that they can pretty much access whatever they want, because you have to run it as an administrator, you have to download it, you have to let all those files into your hard drive. So that pretty much cancels out the safety part of going on the deep web and using a VPN or a virtual machine, or even Tails OS for that matter. So don't do it, because that's stupid and pretty sick and twisted. But if you do find yourself in that situation, that's what would have to happen. Not that it's totally impossible to have a red room on Tor, but the chances are it would be found and shut down very fast. So, long story short, red rooms are sadly real. They're just incredibly hard to access. Now that's enough about red rooms. Let's talk about, is the deep web even legal? And I've had so many people say to me, especially with school recently, and people are going on the deep web at my school, and they're saying like, I went on the deep web, and then somebody else go, bro, the police are gonna arrest you. And I assure you that using the deep web is not illegal at all. In fact, many big corporations use the deep web for research purposes. They use it to stay anonymous, doing a ton of different things, which include, reporters trying to share files without a different news company hacking into them and stealing it and writing the report first. And the government uses it, for purposes which I'm not completely sure of. And a ton of other people use it, and it's completely safe. And some people just use it because they prefer to remain anonymous when they're when they're browsing the internet. And for some of those people, they're usually a tiny bit paranoid. But it's not to say that it's not easy to track someone's location when they're on the internet. And most of the people, use internet in their everyday lives, which is scary. Because say you're on Instagram, you post a photo. 2 days later, you post another photo, and someone knows where you were on one day and where you were the 2 days later, if they really wanted to. So, again, no. The deep web is not illegal at all. However, there are many services on the deep web that are incredibly illegal, and if you are thick-headed enough to assume that they aren't, I really don't know how. Because a lot of these websites that you're going to find on the deep web, and let's start with pretty much the basics and the least terrifying, you'll find websites that sell you really cheap iPhones, iPods, computers, and all sorts of, expensive stuff, jewelry, whatever. And the reason that those are so cheap and that they're selling them on the deep web is because if the service is even legitimate in the first place, these items have been stolen, or they have been manufactured by a third party, and they're not legit. So, what I mean by manufactured by a third party is it would appear as the item, but, you know, say someone like is selling an iPhone for $100, it could look just like an iPhone, but it would not be running iOS, which is the software that your iPhone has. It would be running Android, because anyone can really, you know, install Android on their phone and use it. So that's what that would be doing, and it's totally illegal to buy something like that has been stolen. Moving on, there's many other services you can buy really discounted guns and ammunition, and a lot of illegal guns too, like assault rifles from Russia and the Ukraine. Eastern Europe countries seem to have that part of the internet covered. And then there's a lot of websites that have hardcore drugs. Drugs like heroin, meth, cocaine, even just regular marijuana, which, you know, I guess technically isn't legal. But if you live in Colorado, why are you going to buy your marijuana in the deep web when you can just go to, you know, anywhere where they sell marijuana? Now, essentially, it gets worse than this. There are hacker services where you can ruin someone's life, and there are hitman services where you can pay a lot of money to have someone killed, as terrible as that is. So, you know, using any of these services, of course, are illegal. There are also some services that aren't illegal, but they're heavily frowned upon, such as a service that allows you to mail a box of shit to someone you don't like. You can purchase a box of shit from like a horse or a cow or something, and you can pretty much send it to whoever you want. It never gets to you, just the company sends it out to them. Oh, I also missed something pretty important. Snuff pornography. You can find a lot of snuff pornography on the deep web. It's terrible, and I'm terribly sorry to even have to say that. It makes me sick to my stomach to even think about it. But the sad reality is that if you really want to find it, you can. There are websites with child pornography and snuff pornography, of course, which is pretty much the act of abusing, torturing, possibly killing people while having sexual interactions with them. And even worse is necrophilia, which is actually just having sex with dead bodies. So there is a lot of disgusting things that you can find on the deep web. So again, I'll repeat that no, the deep web to use is not illegal whatsoever, but most of the services you could find on the deep web are heavily illegal, if you can even actually find legit ones, because there's also ones like credit, they send you like credit cards or citizenship papers for a country, stuff like that. But yeah, that's a big no-no. I guess the last thing I really want to talk about on the deep web is, I mean, now that you know that it's not illegal, I want to tell you guys why you should use it. If you can figure out how to be safe, if you can follow my steps or the steps of anybody who makes a more in-depth video on how to actually access the deep web, if you can do all of those things, you're pretty much safe. So I highly recommend that you use the deep web for educational purposes. There's a lot of interesting and cool things you can find on there that you wouldn't, you know, read about in books, textbooks, or on the clear web. So I highly recommend, you know, looking at it just for the sake of being informed and having that experience. I, of course, don't condone any of the actions on the deep web, and before you decide to make any random decisions about, you know, trying to go on it, if you're not too familiar with the deep web, I highly recommend you watch videos of other people exploring the deep web and stuff like that. And again, I really have to heavily recommend the channel Some Ordinary Gamers. This guy, Mudahar, he has an entire series that's about 70 episodes in, where he explores the deep web. I've watched 7 or 8 of his episodes, and I watch a lot of his other gaming content. He's a good YouTuber. He has a lot of subscribers. He's very professional about his work, and I can't say anything bad about him. I really highly recommend this guy, especially if you want to learn more about the deep web, because he also has a lot of videos about staying safe, and he pretty much talks about what I talk about in his videos. So that's, I guess, the last thing I really want to talk about is For more information, go check out Some Ordinary Gamers. Great guy with a great channel. And I hope you found this video informative or interesting at the very least. And as always, guys, it's been your boy Kryptonite, and I'll see you in the next video.